The French Revolution is one of the most dramatic turning points in world history. It was a time when ordinary people rose against centuries of monarchy, privilege, and injustice, and demanded a new world built on liberty, equality, and fraternity. What began in 1789 as a call for reform would quickly spiral into revolution, war, and terror, before reshaping the entire course of modern politics. To understand why France exploded in revolution, we need to look at the years leading up to it. By the late 18th century, France was one of the most powerful nations in Europe, but beneath the glittering surface of its monarchy, the country was crumbling. King Louis XVI ruled from the magnificent palace of Versailles, surrounded by wealth, art, and luxury. His queen, Marie Antoinette, became infamous for her extravagance and for being detached from the struggles of the common people. Meanwhile, the majority of France's citizens lived in poverty. The country was drowning in debt. Years of expensive wars, including support for the American Revolution, had nearly bankrupted the kingdom. To make matters worse, harvests had been poor, and the price of bread, the most important food for ordinary people, skyrocketed. Families could barely afford to eat, and hunger became a daily reality. Society in France was deeply unequal. It was divided into three estates. The first estate was the clergy, who enjoyed wealth and privileges, paying almost no taxes. The second estate was the nobility, a small but powerful class that controlled land and influence, also spared from most taxation. And the third estate was everyone else, the peasants, city workers, merchants, and middle-class professionals. This group made up 97% of the population, yet carried nearly all the tax burden while having little to no political power. Frustration and anger grew. The Enlightenment had spread new ideas about freedom, democracy, and the rights of citizens. Thinkers like Rousseau and Voltaire had challenged the old order, and their words gave inspiration to the oppressed. The French people were beginning to ask, why should a tiny elite live in luxury while the majority suffered? In 1789, facing bankruptcy, King Louis XVI called for a meeting of the Estates General, an assembly representing all three estates. It was the first time this body had been summoned in over 170 years. The king hoped to find solutions to the financial crisis, but instead, it opened the door to revolution. The Third Estate quickly realized that their voices would once again be ignored. They represented the overwhelming majority of the nation, yet the First and Second Estates could easily outvote them. In protest, the Third Estate broke away and declared themselves the National Assembly, claiming to represent the true will of the French people. They met in the nearby indoor tennis court, where they swore the famous tennis court oath. They would not separate until they had written a new constitution for France. This was the first open act of defiance against royal authority. The spark turned into flame on July 14th, 1789, when crowds in Paris stormed the Bastille, a fortress prison that symbolized royal tyranny. Though it held only a handful of prisoners, the fall of the Bastille was a powerful symbol of freedom and resistance. The fortress was torn down brick by brick, and the French Revolution had officially begun. Today, this day, is remembered every year as Bastille Day, France's national holiday. The revolution spread across the countryside. Peasants revolted against feudal lords, demanding the end of centuries-old privileges. In Paris, revolutionaries pressed forward with bold reforms. On August 26, 1789, the National Assembly adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, inspired by the American Revolution and Enlightenment thought. It proclaimed that all men were born free and equal in rights. Liberty, equality, and fraternity became the guiding ideals of the revolution. But the monarchy resisted. In October 1789, a crowd of thousands, many of them women, marched from Paris to Versailles. They demanded bread, but also demanded that the king return to Paris under the watchful eye of his people. King Louis and Queen Marie Antoinette were forced to move into the Tuileries Palace in Paris, effectively prisoners of the revolution. As the revolution deepened, tensions rose. The king's failed attempt to escape France in 1791 destroyed what little trust remained. Many now saw him as a traitor. By 1792, France declared war on Austria and Prussia, believing that foreign monarchies threatened the revolution. War brought more radical change. That same year, the monarchy was abolished, and France was declared a republic. In January 1793, King Louis XVI was tried for treason and executed by guillotine in Paris. His wife, Marie Antoinette, was executed later that year. The execution of the king sent shock waves across Europe. Monarchs everywhere feared that revolutionary ideas might spread to their own lands. But as the monarchy fell, so did unity among the revolutionaries. Different factions fought for control of the revolution. The Jacobins, led by Maximilien Robespierre, gained power and pushed for radical reforms. Under his leadership, the Committee of Public Safety launched the Reign of Terror, a period where anyone suspected of opposing the revolution could be arrested and executed. Thousands were sent to the guillotine, including nobles, priests, and even former revolutionaries who were accused of betrayal. For ordinary people, the Reign of Terror brought fear as much as freedom. While the revolution had promised liberty, it seemed now to be devouring itself. In July 1794, Robespierre himself was overthrown and executed, ending the terror. After his fall, France entered a new phase. The Directory, a government of 5 leaders, tried to bring stability. But corruption, political struggles, and continued wars with European monarchies left France exhausted. People longed for order and strong leadership. That leadership came in the form of a young, ambitious general, Napoleon Bonaparte. In 1799, Napoleon staged a coup d'etat and seized power, promising stability, reforms, and glory for France. He marked the end of the revolution and the beginning of a new era. The French Revolution had lasted a decade, from 1789 to 1799, but its impact was felt for centuries. It ended feudal privilege in France, inspired movements for democracy across Europe and beyond, and introduced the powerful ideas of citizenship and equality before the law. It also showed the world both the potential and the dangers of revolution. It demonstrated how ordinary people, when united, could overthrow kings and centuries of injustice. But it also revealed how easily a revolution could descend into violence, fear, and dictatorship. In the end, the French Revolution was more than the fall of a monarchy. It was the rise of modern politics. It was a cry for freedom that still echoes today, a reminder that people have the power to challenge oppression and reshape their world. From the storming of the Bastille to the rise of Napoleon, the French Revolution remains one of the most important and dramatic events in human history.